My daughter-in-law laughed when I stopped paying her bills. At dinner, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "How does it feel being useless?" Everyone laughed. I didn't. I simply put down my fork and said, "You'll find out soon enough." For years, I had paid their emergencies, helped with their mortgage, covered unexpected expenses, and rescued them whenever they ran short. They thought my help would never end. 3 weeks later, Rachel stood on my doorstep holding an eviction notice, tears running down her face. "Please," she whispered, "you're the only person who can save our home." But this time, I had a different answer. The words landed harder than the fork that slipped from my hand. "How does it feel being useless?" My daughter-in-law, Rachel, smiled across the dinner table as if she had delivered the funniest joke of the evening. My son Daniel gave an uncomfortable laugh. Nobody defended me. I slowly picked up my glass. Then I looked directly at Rachel. "How does it feel knowing I won't pay your bills anymore?" The laughter disappeared. For the first time that evening, Rachel looked uncertain. For years, I had been the person this family called whenever something went wrong. When Daniel and Rachel needed help with their mortgage, I helped. When their car needed an expensive repair, I paid. When the electric bill was overdue, I transferred money. When Rachel said the children needed new clothes, I quietly covered the cost. They were family. That was enough. But somewhere along the way, my help stopped being a gift. It became an expectation. Rachel reached for her wine and laughed again, but this time the sound was forced. "Oh, please," she said. "You're not seriously getting offended over a joke." "A joke?" I asked. "Yes. Everyone knows you don't work anymore. Daniel and I are the ones actually building a future." I looked at my son. Daniel was perfectly able to speak for himself, but he said nothing. That hurt more than Rachel's insult. I had raised him to stand up for people being treated unfairly. Yet he sat silently while she mocked me. I took another sip of water. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I don't work anymore." Rachel smiled triumphantly. And I'm finally going to stop working for this family." Her smile disappeared. Daniel finally looked up. "Mom, come on." "No," I said quietly. "I'm serious." Rachel put her glass down. "You can't just stop helping us." I almost laughed. "Why not?" "Because you know we're counting on you." There it was. Not gratitude. Not concern. Entitlement. She wasn't asking whether I could afford to stop. She was telling me I wasn't allowed to. I folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. "Starting tonight, you won't have to worry about feeling dependent on me. I'm done paying your bills." Rachel stared at me. Then she laughed. "You'll be back in a week," she said. "You always come back." That sentence stayed with me. Because she was right. I had always come back. When their mortgage payment was short, I covered it. When Daniel's car transmission failed, I paid the repair bill. Last winter, when their heating system broke, I transferred thousands of dollars. Every time I told myself the same thing. They're family. They need me. I never asked why they were always struggling. I simply assumed life was expensive, and they were doing their best. That night, though, something inside me had shifted. After dinner, Daniel followed me into the kitchen. "Mom, Rachel didn't mean it. She said I was useless." She was frustrated. "About what?" He hesitated. "Money." I turned around. "Exactly." He rubbed his forehead. "We just had a difficult year." "I know. And we were counting on you." "I know that too." He looked embarrassed. "Can you please just give us some time? I've given you years." He had no answer. I watched him return to the dining room. Neither of them asked how much I had actually given them. They believed the money would always appear. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with coffee and opened my banking records. I decided to do something I had never done before. I was going to calculate exactly how much I had given them. The numbers seemed ordinary. 500 here, 800 there, a mortgage payment, a repair bill. Then I kept going. The numbers started adding up. Fast. I opened another statement. Then another. By noon, I wasn't angry anymore. I was stunned. I finally saw the pattern. And suddenly, I understood everything completely. Their problem wasn't that they had no money. Their problem was that they had learned they could always spend theirs first, because I would spend mine saving them. The first thing I discovered was that Rachel had lied to me about the mortgage. Not about owing money. They really were behind. She had lied about why. I sat at my kitchen table with 3 years of bank statements spread around me, highlighting every payment I had made. I had never kept score with my family, but this wasn't about keeping score anymore. It was about understanding what had happened to my generosity. I slowly opened their recent credit card statements. The first charge made my stomach tighten. A designer handbag. Nearly $800. 2 days later, an expensive restaurant. Then a weekend hotel. I kept scrolling. There were salon appointments, expensive clothing, dinners, concert tickets, and purchases that had nothing to do with emergencies. Meanwhile, Rachel had called me 3 weeks earlier crying because they supposedly couldn't afford their utility bill. I stared at those numbers. Then I whispered, "You had the money. They just didn't want to spend it." I kept digging. Daniel's paycheck came every 2 weeks. Rachel had her own income. Their combined earnings should have covered their ordinary expenses. But whenever something unexpected came up, they spent first and called me afterward. I had mistaken poor planning for hardship. Then I found a spreadsheet where I had recorded every transfer. Over 3 years, I had given them more than $30,000. They simply asked again, whenever they needed something. I closed the spreadsheet and opened my bank account. There were 2 automatic payments I had forgotten about, their car insurance and a portion of their mortgage. I canceled both. Then I canceled the monthly grocery transfer I had been sending Daniel. My finger hovered over confirmation. For a moment, I felt guilty. Then I remembered Rachel's words. How does it feel being useless? I clicked confirm. Minutes later, Daniel texted, "Mom, did you cancel the mortgage payment?" I typed one sentence. "It isn't a mistake." My phone rang. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I'm stopping the financial help." "You can't do that without warning." "I warned you last night." Rachel was joking. Then she should be relieved. She won't have to depend on someone she considers useless. Silence. Then Daniel said, "We need that money." "I know." "Then why would you do this?" "Because you need to learn how to manage your own household." His voice became frustrated. "Mom, we're already struggling." "I know. That's why I'm not giving you another check. If I keep rescuing you, nothing changes." Then Rachel called. "You're punishing us because I said something at dinner."
No.
"I'm responding to something I've ignored for years. You've always helped us. And that's the problem." She scoffed.
Fine.
"We'll figure it out ourselves." "I hope you do." She hung up. 3 days passed. No calls. No requests. No emergencies. Then Daniel called Thursday evening. His voice sounded different. "Mom, yes. We're behind on the mortgage." "I know." "No, I mean behind." "How far?" "Several payments." How did that happen?" He hesitated. "Rachel thought we'd catch up." "And we can't." He sounded disappointed. "Can't you just help us this once?" "No, please." "No, Daniel." He went quiet. Then he said something that made my chest ache. "Mom, I don't know what we're going to do." "I know. That was the hardest part. I loved my son. Stopping the money didn't mean stopping the love. It meant forcing a separation between the two." The next morning, an envelope arrived. Daniel had forwarded it because he didn't know what else to do. I opened it slowly. Inside was an eviction notice connected to the property they had been renting after falling seriously behind. I read it. This was no longer about a dinner insult. They were genuinely close to losing their home. I sat down, holding the notice in both hands. My phone rang. "Daniel." "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "Please. We need you." I looked at the eviction notice. "Tell her I'm sorry." Rachel, the woman who had laughed at me 3 weeks earlier, was crying. And before I could say anything, Daniel whispered, "She's coming to see you." The line went dead. I looked toward my front door. For the first time, I wondered what Rachel would be willing to say when she had nothing left to demand. Rachel was standing on my porch when I opened the door. 3 weeks earlier, she had laughed at me across a dinner table. Now her mascara was running, her hair was messy, and she was clutching the eviction notice against her chest. "Please," she whispered. "What happened to figuring it out yourselves?" Her eyes dropped. "We tried." I stepped aside. They came in quietly. Rachel sat on my sofa and stared at the floor. "I know what I said was wrong," she said. "What did you say?" She swallowed. "That you were useless. And that you were old and had nothing else to contribute." "Why did you say it?" "Because I was angry." "No," I said. "You said it because you believed it." She looked up. "I thought you would always help us." There it was. Rachel hadn't seen my help as kindness. She had seen it as a permanent arrangement. Daniel sat beside her. "Mom, I should have stopped her." "Yes," I said. He looked ashamed. I was scared. Of what? That if I disagreed with Rachel, she'd leave. I stared at my son. "And you were willing to let her disrespect me because you were afraid of losing her?" He nodded. That hurt, but it also made my decision easier. I picked up the eviction notice. "I can help you." Rachel immediately looked hopeful. "How much?" "That's the wrong question. I am not giving you another large check." "Then how can you help?" "We're going to call the landlord together." "You'll come with us?"
Yes.
"I'll help you negotiate. I'll help you build a budget. I'll help you figure out what you can actually afford." "But the money?"
No.
I continued. "You're going to sell what you don't need. Cancel expensive subscriptions. Stop eating out every other night. Cut unnecessary expenses. And if you need to move somewhere cheaper, you'll do it." "You're really going to let us lose our home?" "No," I said. "I'm going to help you save yourselves." The next morning, we called the landlord. It wasn't easy, but because we approached the problem honestly, a repayment arrangement became possible. There was no miracle. There was simply a plan. For once, responsibility belonged to them, and the choice was finally theirs. They sold furniture they didn't need. They canceled expensive memberships. Daniel picked up additional work. Rachel started tracking every dollar. The eviction was delayed while they followed the repayment agreement. 2 months later, Rachel returned to my house. This time, she wasn't carrying an eviction notice. She carried a small box. "I brought you something." Inside was a framed family photograph. I looked at her. "Why?" "Because I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For not giving us the money."
She sat beside me.
"If you had written that check, we'd probably be in the same situation 6 months from now." I nodded. "You finally understand." "I do." She took a breath. "I also owe you an apology." "You already apologized."
No.
"That was for what I said. This is for how I treated you." Her voice trembled. "I thought your value was the money you gave us." I looked at her. "And now? Now I know you were valuable even when you gave us nothing." That sentence stayed with me. Daniel apologized too. He admitted he had become comfortable letting me solve problems he should have handled himself. From that day forward, I made one rule clear. I would help my family when there was genuine need. But I would never again allow my love to become permission for someone to disrespect me. Months later, Rachel sent me a message. "We're okay. We're actually doing better than before." I smiled. Not their suffering. Not their embarrassment. Responsibility. That dinner taught me something I should have learned years earlier. Being needed isn't the same as being valued. And being generous doesn't mean you have to become someone's financial safety net forever. Rachel once asked me how it felt being useless. I finally knew my answer. I wasn't useless. I had simply stopped being useful to people who had forgotten how to appreciate me. And that difference changed everything.